He was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 2018. He is a national championship head coach here at the University of Texas, and he is now the co-host of the Stampede with Bob Ballou and Vince Young, and he just celebrated his 32nd wedding anniversary with Miss Sally Brown. He is the legendary coach, Mack Brown. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on.
We appreciate you taking the time to get up with us. I know that you probably got a tea time coming up in about an hour or so. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us. And I want to get right into it because the University of Texas is at a spot where you helped build it. And Texas went through that long and great run here on the 40 acres. There was a little lull in between that, but now it seems to be ascending. And you've always talked about, in order to be a great coach, you have to have great people around you. And that is what it seems that Coach Sarkisian has been able to do. Now that you have been around and seen the program, what are some of the things that stand out to you about where this program is compared to what it was like when you were the head coach here?
Mike, number one, DeLoss Dodds was he had quite the run with 32 years as the athletics director at the University of Texas, and he helped us get from where we were to where we had to go. And Chris Del Conte's doing the same. Just to look at the pregame environment, it's not a football game; it's an event. I mean, it is a showpiece now. And Sally said the other day, I don't care about the game, but I'd like to go see the pregame and Bevo Boulevard and all the things that come with it that Chris has done. So, and I was so impressed at 11 o'clock in the heat that Texas fans showed up and they were loud and made a difference in the ball game last weekend. So that's a great start. And then Coach Sarkisian has worked for Nick Saban. He's worked for Pete Carroll. He's been a head coach at Washington in a city. He's been a head coach at USC in a city. He's coached pro ball, and now the college game is headed more toward the pro game than ever before. So he's in a perfect situation to be the great head coach at Texas that he is right now. And he's also hired a tremendous staff. And again, Chris lets him hire who he wants to and who he needs to, just bringing Dwayne Akina back. 16 years at the university and 2 Thorpe winners and so many All-Americans and so many great players. PK's done a great job with the defense. And then Steve is so good with the offense. He and Coach Flood have been consistent. And Steve's been able to keep his coordinators. And that's something that's very hard to do with all three in special teams, offense and defense. The coordinators haven't changed. And he's maybe the only school in the country that hasn't changed coordinators over the last few years. And they're right there. People keep asking me, what do they have to do? What do they have to do? Well, you got to win one more game.
Yeah.
You got to make 2 more plays. But if you're in the neighborhood and you're in a position where you know what it feels like to be in the playoffs, you know how it feels to be down to the end in the fourth quarter, it's just going to take a team that stays healthy and a team that just, as Coach Roy used to tell me, when you're good enough and you're healthy enough, it's going to happen.
Coach, I believe, before I get into football, I believe in giving somebody their flowers, not at a funeral, but in person and up front. And I want to give you your flowers because you allowed a young Mark Henry, who you didn't know, to come to the University of Texas and train in the weight room with Mad Dog and the rest of your coaching staff and your strength coaching staff. And a lot of what I did in my prime was because I was allowed to train at the best facility in the city. And I wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you. I used to walk down and say, who is that? He needs to be playing. My dog said, no, he's too old. I said, doesn't matter. Let's get him signed up here and get him in school, man.
Well, now that we got that out of the way, Coach, like you've been known as a CEO, not just as a great coach, but and a Hall of Fame coach, but also like one of the best to ever do it in the business from behind the board. What role did you enjoy the most? I know coaching is fun, and winning is fun because you did a lot of that. But you had to get a real strong sense of accomplishment from putting everything together.
Mark, what I enjoyed the most was being offensive coordinator. Wow. I love that. And that was before I became a head coach. And I wanted to be a head coach, and I wasn't very smart. I saw Steve Sloan become a head coach in his late 20s. I saw Bill Battle become a head coach in his late 20s. So I said, I want to be a head coach. I didn't think about being a head coach at a place where you could win. If you don't get a place you win, you don't get to stay. So that's the biggest part of it. But I also love taking a young person when he came in. I loved recruiting because I can sit there and I would know more about recruiting, Mark, than the families, because I'd done it for 40 years or 30-something years, and they'd done it for 6 months. So I actually took the family, and I would sit down with you and your family, Mark, and say, what would be best for you? Because that's where you're going to end up anyway. And I would tell some kids, and the coaches would get mad at me, I don't think it's best for you to come here. And here's why. If I was you, I'd do this. And they'd say, what are you doing? I said, he's not going to make it here anyway.
Right.
If it's not his fit, he's not going to make it. And one of the impressive things to me about what Steve's doing is they've got good kids. I hear them interviewed. I see them. I see what they say and how they say it, and they fit here. And that's really, really important to have the proper fit. So I loved recruiting. And then the other thing, you in coaching, you change kids' lives. And you got to be really, really careful. Billy Graham said one time that a coach can change more lives in 1 year than an average person can change in a lifetime. Well, what I've learned at 74 years old is so many of those young guys that I coach, Mark and Mike, will come up now and say, and they're 40 and 50. And I always said it was a 40-year decision, not a 4. Well, now it's going to be a 50-year decision because they're all getting older. But when they come up now, I said, remember when I was a sophomore and you jumped on me? Coach, that saved my life. Remember when you came to Dad's funeral? Remember when I was messing up and you grabbed me and pulled me in the corner and said, look, I know what you're doing and you've got to stop it. And you got to stop it now. So what you do as a coach, you got to be really, really careful what you say to a young guy because he listens. You're a powerful figure in his life. And so not only do you put yourself in a position to change some lives, you save some lives. We had a young person in the mountains of North Carolina that committed suicide. And we were very close to him. So we just got into North Carolina the second time. So we ran back and had a team meeting and said, hey guys, I don't know a lot about suicide, but I know that it's hurtful to your friends, hurtful to your family and your parents. And so, and I'm not supposed to talk to you about it because I'm not qualified, but if you're struggling, come and talk to us. Come on, man. It's not worth it. It's not worth football. It's not worth anything. Let's talk. And we had a young guy named Jake Lawler that came upstairs right after the meeting and said, Coach, I was on a bridge last night.
Wow.
And I need help. And that's the power of the coach. So you've got to win to keep your job. You've got to win to be able to hang around and have the influence on the players because they want to win. But when you do that, you also have a tremendous responsibility to be a strong personal figure in those young people's lives.
We're talking to the legendary coach Mack Brown. He was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 2018. He is now doing a podcast with Bob Ballou and Vince Young called The Stampede, which is outstanding. Make sure you check it out. And Coach, I know you just touched on some of the things that I was going to ask you about changing people's lives and being a part and being present. Last night I did a football clinic, a ladies football clinic with Derek Johnson and Norman Watkins. And one of the things that Derek said about his recruitment with you was the honesty and the way that you came into his mother's house and made her feel like, Derek, you need to commit tonight to Coach Brown because he is such a great man. But you also said after winning that national championship that don't let this be the greatest thing that you've ever accomplished in your life. And Derek is living proof of that statement of what you were talking about.
Mike, when I said that after the game, it's the first time we'd won a national championship in 35 years. So what do you say? I mean, good Lord, man, this is a cool moment. And I see Roger Clemens, and I see Lance Armstrong, and I see Matthew McConaughey, and I see Rex. And all of a sudden, you're sitting there and you're saying, okay, what's good enough? So I say thank you. And then I'm thinking, I don't want these guys to be 40 years old and all they've done is talk about this game. So then we said, congratulations on the win, but let's make this bigger. They looked at me like I was crazy. He said, what's this old man talking about? Let's use this to be better fathers and better husbands and have more influence in the community. And now it's amazing how many of the guys come up and say, we get it now. We didn't get it that night, but we get it now. And it's one of those things when you're playing a two-time national champion, you weren't sitting there thinking about what you were going to say after the post-game win. You had to win first. So it was just that moment. And I will say, before I spoke to the team, we had Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart come and knock on the door because they missed me on the field. And they said, can we see Coach for a minute? And I walked over before I spoke to the team, and they both said, we did not want to leave the stadium without congratulating you. What a great win. And nobody talks about those things.
Wow.
And that was one of the coolest moments for those two young people at a time where they were so disappointed to come and do that. And then it was my mother's birthday, and my mother's pretty spunky. And we lost her, but she came up and said, okay, what are we going to do for next year to beat this?
Only mothers.
Only mothers.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Coach, you've been around, you said this is 50 years?
47 years in coaching.
47 years. And you have seen thousands of players. Out of those 1,000 players, who is the most dominant of all the players there was just no answer for him? Who was that guy?
Oh gosh, Mark, we just talked about Derek Johnson. I saw him make 30 tackles in a high school game at Waco High School.
Yep.
I mean, 30 tackles. 30. I went to go out and kiss him then, man. I said, this guy, here's your defense. We don't need to be, what, can he play? How good is he? No. He ran over everybody and made every tackle. And he's nice and he's smart. And early in the year, Carl Reese said, well, he doesn't know what to do. I said, yes, he does. I saw him know what to do 30 times in a game. He knows how to tackle. And he said, well, he doesn't know the scheme. I said, then change the scheme. Put him in. Well, we only play 3 linebackers. We got 3 starters. I said, play 4. I don't care. I want Derek Johnson
on the field.
And then you talk about Ricky Williams, who's one of the smartest players and people I've ever been around. He was such a competitor. Every time he touched the ball in practice, he'd run to the end zone and score. So we had to start moving the drills down so we wouldn't kill him in that 100-degree heat. And he wanted to cover kickoffs. He wanted to play linebacker. I mean, he was crazy. He was so competitive. And then you look at Vince Young. I mean, he absolutely took over the Rose Bowl for 2 years in a row. Just absolutely took over it. They said he owned the Rose Bowl. So you start talking about those guys and Roy Williams, and I kind of do it, Mark and Mike, in a by position. You start looking at Ricky Williams, then you have to talk about Jamal Charles, then you have to talk about Selvin Young, and then you say, oh my gosh, we're leaving out Cedric Benson.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the best to ever play, and tough and smart. And it just, Hodges Mitchell. And I mean, you just go down, then you go to linebacker and you get checkoffs, and then you go to wide receivers. And that one group of wide receivers, when you start looking at Sloan Thomas and B.J. Johnson and Roy Williams and Tony Jeffries, and those guys were so good. Then you start looking at Bo Scaife and David Thomas and the tight ends that came through there.
Wow. And
then the offensive linemen, 4 of the 5 played in the NFL a long time in that national championship team, and Will Allen, the other one, was in camp. And defensive lineman, Rod Wright's going in the Hall of Honor this weekend, tomorrow, in fact. Yep. But you start looking at Arakpo, and I mean, just start checking that list. And then defensive backs, my gosh, that thing, that's like a Hall of Fame just to start talking about the defensive backs we had. And then you get into the Justin Tuckers and Richmond McGee's. And Vince said he hated kickers and punters because he never wanted to kick and punt. And I said, yeah, you kept them from even lettering. And I'd say, Vince, we need to kick a field goal here. He said, no, they can't stop us on 4th down, coach. So he never wanted to kick. And he said, I don't hate the people, but I hate the position. They shouldn't have them. You should go for every 4th down. And that was just Vince. And I'm loving being on the podcast with Vince. It's so much fun. His personality is so good. And
it's got to be
fun. Laughing. He's cutting up. He said, you laugh more now than you used to. I said, yeah, I had to put up with you.
Coach, you know the game. You probably know the quarter. I think it was right before halftime. Derek Johnson, I think there was like a big pass, and Derek took off. He was 40 or 50 yards away from the guy and ran him down to stop a touchdown right before half. It was one of the most impressive things I ever saw. I don't think a cornerback could have ran this guy down. Do you remember that play?
I do. In fact, the play I remember the most from Derek was chasing the quarterback down at Oklahoma and batting the ball from behind and knocking the ball loose while the guy was running. And Derek didn't go to the ground.
Right.
He tackled him, stood up, knocked the ball out, and then went and got the ball. I mean, it was just he is such a freak on the field and such a kind heart. And a nice person off the field. You absolutely can't talk to Derek Johnson and see how vicious he was on the field and how he ran and knocked people out now. And he got there fast.
And he said now that because he's so slim, when he was big, he was DJ. He was DJ. Now that he's slimmed down, he's now Derek again.
Well, he's got all those kids, so he's worn out. He's a father too. But what a nice man. And it's fun for me now, 20 years after the national championship, and people ask about coaching, being a head coach for 36 years. That's your extended family. That's what you think about all the time. That's that when you say it's a 40-year decision, not a 4, you got to mean it. When guys call and say, Coach, I need help. I need suggestions. I need a thought. I mean, that's what you do. And you never lose that. You never leave these guys. And that's what's so important. And it's fun to see them with their new families and get pictures on Father's Day and Christmas and Thanksgiving and just see that they've done what I asked them to do after the national championship game in 2005.
Well, you have done an excellent job. You were talking about that team, and all I kept thinking in my mind is Coach Mack Brown can recruit. And that's why all those players were able to be that successful at this university. I want to let you go, but I wanted to tell you thank you. When me and my family came out to North Carolina, you were kind of busy, and you set us up with a tour, and the kids from the soccer team had an unbelievable time touring the University of North Carolina, and I can't thank you enough for that.
Well, thank you, Mike and Mark. We appreciate what you guys do and can't wait for this weekend. You know, with El Paso coming in, it's just another opportunity to grow, another opportunity to play to a standard, another opportunity to get where we need to do. And Mike and Mark, I've always thought it's not hard to be nice. It takes 74 muscles to smile, it takes 114 to frown. So I've always wanted to take the easier path. So you can smile, you can be nice to people. And Coach Rawls said something one time. He said, you're very lucky to be the head coach at the University of Texas. And don't ever walk by anybody young or old without stopping and speaking and taking a picture and signing an autograph. And that's a blessing for you that you can do so little to make somebody smile. And just remember that as soon as you're gone, that next guy's going to be taking those pictures and signing those autographs. So it's not about you. It's about the position, and he was right. But I'm very, very blessed. Sally and I are glad to be back in Austin. You mentioned 32 years. Can you imagine somebody putting up with me for 32 years?
Coach, you're a GM, Coach.
Hey,
I'm just Mark. I'm sucking up every day to try to make it 33.
Well, my
Coach,
money's
tell
on
Miss
you,
Sally that we said hello, please.
I will tell her hello. She had to get up and help me get on the computer because I had an assistant for 36 years. Now I don't have one, so I'm doing better. I'm learning, but it just takes me a little while sometimes to get going.
It's okay. Mark is going through the same
Hey,
thing.
stop
Coach.
it. Don't be telling my business.
Sorry, Mark. I didn't mean to pull you into this.
We appreciate you. Thank you so much, Coach, for taking the time. I know I've been bugging you, but this made our day. So we appreciate you.
Thank you, Mike. Sorry I haven't been able to get on. I've been traveling all over the place and having fun. And as you said, it's hard to, when you're swinging a golf club, it's hard to be on the radio. So that makes it a little harder too.
We'll hit them straight today, and we appreciate you. Thanks, Coach.
Coach.
There
Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. There he is, Hall of Fame coach, Mack Brown.